Here we go. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Tanya here from Integrated Human, your trauma-informed, somatic and emotional health coach. I've got one person here with me live today. Hello, Natasha. I'm not even sure if the system will record you live, but you know, nice of you to wave. Anyway, if you've got any questions, by all means, pop them into the Zoom chat. I've also got the Facebook chat thingamy open, and I will be checking back with those a couple of times during today's presentation. But as I was saying to Natasha before I started the recording, this week's subject, you know, the sort of looseness of this subject was about trauma and how discovering my own trauma has changed my life. Earlier on in the week, let's have a look back through my notes. Yeah, on Monday, I talked about how there's kind of, it's almost like there's two sorts of trauma, but trauma is one whole thing. And you know, there's like the capital T trauma, which is all the really big stuff, and then there's the little t trauma, which is like the workplace stuff, the home stuff, you know, the stuff that happens over and over again and creates trauma because of your lack of emotional intelligence in terms of processing it. So I put a lot of stuff in posts all through the week, but the main point, I think, was that the consequence of ignoring trauma and ignoring the way that trauma is held in your body can literally create burnout, exhaustion, and the hardest one of all, in my opinion, is resentment for those people that you love and care for, especially if, like me, you've spent any length of time in your life as a people pleaser. I would like to say that I'm over it, being a people pleaser, but every now and again, something pings those trauma responses, and that coping mechanism of being that people pleaser rears up again. So my advice to everybody is don't waste a trigger, because even when you think you're over something, if something does trigger you to react in that traumatized way, stop, think, write it down, capture that moment so that you can then bring awareness to your avoidance of dealing with that trigger and instead resorting to your trauma responses. This will allow yourself to feel feelings fully without judgment of yourself. Because, you know, alongside resentment of other people, self-judgment is an absolute nasty one to deal with. Yeah. Also this week, what else have I done this week? Oh yes, I've updated the emotional health handbook. I've got a couple of new versions of things in there, and things that I've previously taken out I've put back in because people missed them. But you know, I also noticed during the week that my guilty pleasure is a little soap that I put on in the evenings. I have it on demand, and I watch, like, they're like little 20-minute programs, and I watch, you know, 3, 4, 5 of them back to back while I'm doing my sewing. And because I'm sewing, this is a secret, I'm sewing a little baby sampler for my next door neighbors with like clouds and teddy bears and little stars falling from the sky, and it's ever such a pretty thing to be sewing. But I'm sitting there watching this soap, and I don't know whether it's just because I am more tuned in to seeing the trauma responses in people, or whether it's just the writers, you know, trying to make the characters more relatable to people out there who are acting in trauma. But either way, you know, I'm just noticing it more and more and more. And I guess that's why I wanted to, you know, continue my work of coaching. You know, even when things get tough, because I've experienced deep depression. I've had, and my longest and nastiest period of depression was started about 4 or 5 weeks after my husband passed away and went on for 3 years. 3 years of not actually having any memory of that time at all, because the depression was so deep, alongside crippling social anxiety and freeze response. Yeah, I couldn't do a thing. So when I started to pull myself out of it, exploring somatics and breath work, and trauma in particular, helped me so much, so much. And with support of my teachers, fellow coaches, other students at the time, to successfully reparent many parts of my fractured life. You know, I'm now in this position where I am the thinker of my own thoughts. I'm not ruled by them. I spend at least 90, heading for, 99% of my time in the moment, aligned in the moment. And when I fall out of alignment, I'm really quick to recognize it and get myself back. Because the thing is that to do this the first time was really hard. To do it the second time was really hard, but not so long. The third time didn't take so long, but it also wasn't so difficult, and so on. So the more and more I've practiced this practice of being in alignment, being in the moment, being present, has meant that I can now do it quickly. But you'll never ever find me handing out quick fixes. Yeah. I mean, how do they say it? Is it quick doesn't stick, or fast doesn't last, or something like that? Anyway, but what I will do is I will see all of my clients in the light of their best self, and I will keep them safe and supported while they get the hang of living in the present and being more in alignment with their own selves. I think on the radio show is just about the only place where I do give out, like, question answer kind of thing. But with each of those, I'm offering a potential route to resolution of their problem. I'm not actually saying, right, in order to fix your problem, you need to do this. Yeah. One of my questions this week was a young man asking, for various reasons, you can hear the full show on the podcast if you want, but for various reasons, he was asking whether or not he could divorce his parents. Bless his heart. And I tried to encourage him to be a bit more self-sufficient and build a life in which he could be part of that parental conversation, rather than being the child subjected to the parental opinions. So yeah, just scrolling down all of my notes from the talk I did on the radio show yesterday. Oh, I also brushed on addiction yesterday, but we brushed over it quite quickly because there are subjects that are difficult to explore on a daytime radio show. So right, so we're now 10 minutes in, and I think what I'm going to focus on for today is just why do I do what I do? Because I started off being a mentor for women with eating disorders, but mentoring and supporting women just didn't feel enough. So I went from mentoring to coaching. I went from supporting women with eating disorders to this trauma-informed somatics that I do now, and mentoring from that place of personal experience through to the set of certifications I've got on the wall over there. And just because it needs to be said in just about every single workshop I do, what is trauma? Trauma is not what happens to you. It is how you and your body react, respond, cope, and process what's happened. So it's not like the actual thing. There is, like, a traumatic experience or a traumatic event, but it's only called traumatic because it can cause trauma in someone who doesn't know how to react or respond, someone who doesn't know how to cope, or doesn't have the support mechanisms and the support of other people to process them. Don't you go barking. My dog is in a really barky mood. And you're barky boy. So how do I work with people? Right. Now, in a one-to-one situation, I have like a structure to a session. It's a 4-part structure to the session, and that ensures that we get from the beginning to the end of the session with as few loose ends as possible. So we start with an intention, and once you've done a few sessions with me, at the end of a previous session, I'll say to you, don't forget to come to your next session with an intention. When people just work with me one-to-one and they're doing what I call pure coaching, then the booking thingy has a little box for them to put in their intention if they know it. Yeah. So that's the why or the what. That's, you know, why am I doing X, Y, Z? What is happening when such and such a thing happens? Yeah, those kind of questions. It's things that you want a resolution to, or things that you want to be able to leave behind, things that you want to release from going round and round in your head. All of those things are the intention, and that's like a short bit at the beginning. Yeah, so 3 to 5 minutes tops. Yeah, then we do the work. Then we dive into the how. It's at that point that I draw on over 50 different tools and techniques, in addition to my own somatic intuition, to support and help people to take those steps towards a solution to whatever it was in their intention. Then towards the end, usually kind of 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes before the end, I'll talk with my clients about homework, or home play, as I sometimes call it. This is to practice what they've learned in the session and to integrate what they've learned in the session into their daily lives, into their fabric. Usually when I work with people in pure coaching, they have access to me in between sessions in either a WhatsApp chat or by email, though email is getting more and more unreliable. Really need to sort out some of the mailing lists that I am subscribed to. Anyway, don't let me get off subject. So yeah, so we've got the intention, we've got doing the work, and we've got what you do next, which is your homework, your practice, your integration. And then right at the very end, I ask what I always jokingly refer to as the question. Yeah. Now, the question has 3 answers, and all 3 are correct. All 3 are useful, and all 3 give the client and me clues as to whether or not the work we've done in the session is helping or not helping, or kind of helping, but we're not really on the right track. Yeah. And that question is, do you feel closer to, further from, or the same distance away from your original intention? So sometimes people say that, they feel closer to resolving a problem, but further away from knowing how to do it. So it can go kind of both ways. But like I said, that's just a check-in that I have at the end of every session. And in that kind of format, I support individuals, couples, and families. Yeah. And that's just in the pure coaching. Alongside that, I have the 3 Ps system, which is what this lovely lady live here wants to hear about. Bless her. So yeah, get ready to type your questions. Okay. Yeah. The 3 Ps system consists of 9 teaching modules, 3 guided visual meditations with breath work, 2 straightforward meditations spread over 20 weeks with weekly Q&A sort of check-in calls, a community chat with me, a mentor, and your peers, I mean, right now, there's only 2 people in the program because I changed the format. Last year, I was doing, everybody joins on the same day. The first 5 people, the first sort of cohort of 5, went through it all together. They all started with module 1, 2, 3, and then did a breath work, 4, 5, 6, and did a breath work. Basically, they did the program how I thought they should do it. All started on the same day, all graduated on the same day, 13 weeks. And the feedback from them was how they were all surprised by doing the same module together and yet having completely different results from said module. So I sort of took that on board and I thought, maybe I need to change the order. So I looked at the order. I split one of the modules in half, took one of the modules out so that it's still 9 modules. And then went through it again. This time there was 7 people started all on the same date. They went through it all. And I added on to the end of that just a couple of weeks of additional support, which was so gratefully received that by the time I did it the 3rd time through with 12 people, 1 person dropped out. So we finished with 11. Those people did it in the order that they needed to do it in. And instead of having 13 weeks, it was, from the beginning, a 16-week program. So now what it is a 20-week program. So you have your 9 modules, your 3 guided visual meditations with breath work, 2 additional meditations. That's over, you would normally expect to get through that in 13 weeks and then have 7 additional weeks on the end for just support, where you can come to the weekly Q&As, you can ask your questions, you can stay in the community chat with myself and the peers, you can send pictures, share things with each other, yeah? But now, because you can start whenever you're ready to start, there is no single intake day and no single graduation day. I create a little thingamy, which makes no sense to you because this is confidential. This is somebody's actual work strategy, yeah. And they've got each of the modules. They go in groups of 3. So you have your first 3 modules, and then you do a breath work. Your next 3 modules and a breath work. The last 3 modules and a breath work, and then a meditation. One of the other meditations is slotted in whenever you need it. You can probably see this big bold orange line. Can you bear with me for just 1 second? I need to shout it. Woofing doggy. Are you going to shush? And of course, anybody who works with me knows that Buddy is part of the deal. He actually appears on the graduation certificates for the 3Ps program as head of client happiness and a paw print. It's very cute. So yes, you can see this orange stripe across here. This is because this particular person needed to take a week out with no additional work. So they still have the total of the 20 weeks, but they're having a rest week in the middle. Yeah. And I'm now watching that lady very closely to make sure that I don't push on with the next module until she's totally ready. So over 20 weeks, you get these modules in the order that you need them, at a pace that suits you. The compassionate self-discovery that goes on in this course is what brings you the ability to set priorities, create purpose, and bring peace into your life. It is aimed primarily at people pleasers. And yeah, that's pretty much it. There's you get discounts for paying all in one lump sum. You can pay for it monthly, you can pay for it weekly. There's 1 scholarship spot available at the moment. What I do, and again, open honesty, what I do is I get 2 full paying clients and then I offer a scholarship. So I'm expecting there to be a little bit of a waiting list on the scholarship front, to be honest with you. But at the moment, there isn't one, a waiting list, I mean. So let's go full screen again. Have you got any questions? No, she's got no questions. She's got no questions. Okay, well, this is normally where I leave off, around about half an hour or so. Anybody who sees this workshop in any place other than the Facebook group, you'll need to look below for a link to the Facebook group, which is where all of the best stuff is seen first. The workshops also go onto my YouTube channel, but they don't get released on there until, at least a couple of weeks after what's going on in the Facebook group. It's always the Facebook group comes first. At the moment, what else have I got to offer you? I've got the Facebook group, I've got a podcast, I've got the YouTube channel, which are essentially other ways to see the content that I'm producing. The podcast consists of recordings of my radio show and individual questions and answers. So I had a question from somebody last week, and this morning I recorded a response to that question. So if it says Tough Talk with Tanya, then it's a radio show. If it's just question from, name, about, subject, then those are the questions. You can send in your questions in any way that you can think of, really. Email, Facebook, Messenger, anything like that. If you're listening to the podcast, you can leave a voice message for me from the profile page. If you click on my profile on Spotify, there's a place you can send me a voice message. And what I'm hoping to do with those voice messages is, if it says, hi, this is Claire, I've got this problem, can you give me an answer? Yeah. What I'm then doing is I'm creating like a little mini episode of just the question and my answer, and then posting that separately, so it doesn't get muddled up with any of the other stuff I'm doing. It looks, to all intents and purposes, I was originally just going to do the radio show for 6 months, but we've now done 28 shows, which is technically 6 months and a half, a month. And we're still going on. So I've agreed to continue doing radio shows up there for free until probably Christmas for now. And then we'll see how things go after Christmas, because I always anticipate that at some point I'll be choosing between stuff I do for free, stuff I do for my clients, and all this kind of thing. But at the moment I have time to do these things for free. Oh, I also do this super funny, well, I think it's funny anyway, it's once a month on a Thursday. And it was someone else in the Rendlesham community where I live who named it. She called it Knit and Natter. And the idea is that there's a room open, we've got a kettle, you need to bring your own mug, tea, coffee, whatever it is you want to bring, and bring some sewing or some knitting or whatever your little hobby is. And we literally just sit around a big table and natter and just talk. And that's all it's about. I host it because of all of the radio presenters. They all kind of voted for me, because it's like, yeah, but you can actually help these people. We'll just be sitting there and nattering. So we do sometimes get other DJs coming along to that. It was very funny the other week when we had one of the other DJs is like an electrical engineer, but he also does wiring in offices for computer networks. And he sat at one end of the table making 2-meter long USB cables with a little like clamp thing, and putting the ends on and clamping it. And then he was going, right, I need to make 22 1-meter ones, 13 2-meter ones, 6 4-meter ones, and he's just sitting there making cables. And then when he finished all of the USB cables, he bundled them all in a bag, took them to his car, came back with another bag, and started making Cat5 cables, which are how to describe a Cat5 cable. It's Ethernet. Yeah, it's like wireless but down a wire. Don't know how else to explain it, but it kind of looks a bit like a telephone cable. So anyway, he sat and did a load of those. So there we were chatting away. But those are all of the fun things that we get up to on our Thrive Thursdays, I call them, once a month. It's a good laugh. So if anybody needs me for anything, I am very easily contactable. If you are watching this video on or in Facebook, just click on my name, because it'll be my name that posts this. Click on my name, send me a message, or comment underneath, or go and look around for every now and again I will post a link to my podcast. I don't think I've posted a link to my podcast for a couple of weeks. Maybe I ought to do like a really pretty, picture of me with headphones on or something, and post the link to the podcast underneath that. But if you want to listen to any of the radio shows on the radio station, it is www.rendleshamradio.com. Yeah, I think that's everything. I think I've plugged the living daylights out of myself and what I do, and explained a little bit about trauma and how it works, and how you can heal and move on from it. So one last chance for a question. Want a question? Yes? No? Wave bye. Have you got a question? Do you want to unmute and say your question, or do you want to just type it? Either or. Yes, she's got a question. Okay, unmute yourself. Fire away.
Okay.
So that we're both. Okay, I've pinned you so that we're both on the screen. Hi.
Okay,
How
awesome.
can I help?
So the first thing is I am really interested in the program, the 3Ps, because I know I've seen you work before and I've taken some sessions. I know that how deep we can go into every topic. And I've actually seen results even from the one session I took with you. Like I was able to change a lot of things in my life from that.
Yeah, that was a business, for anybody who's watching this video, that was a business mindset coaching session. 30 minutes, seeing what we can smash out of the park in 30 minutes, wasn't it?
That was amazing. So question I had about trauma, like you mentioned that trauma is actually the way our body responds to something, not just, and it was interesting because I've dealt with trauma before, and a lot of the times I noticed it's just like the event actually passed away. It didn't have that much meaning, but the way I'm responding to it, or the way I hold on to some of the things, and it does, even for me, like I got over a bunch of things, but it does come back time to time, right? Like in a new experience or in a new situation, I would have something that triggers me, and I'm like, it goes right back to that memory, right? And I start
because what happens, you see, is it takes you, or your psyche, it takes you back to that moment and how you responded or didn't respond in that moment. So if you imagine a child, for instance, who a car accident happens, but outside that child's home, they hear that grinding metal against metal noise, and when they hear that noise when they're in their 30s and 40s and 50s, it takes them back to the fear they had, not understanding what had happened. And in theory, we would think that there would be no trauma from a child being inside a house and the car accident happening to someone else outside. But there's also a past client of mine, and I do have her permission to tell this story, obviously with no names or anything. When she was a child, her mother's response to any kind of misbehavior was to beat the children, beat them, full on beat them. But because she was also very aware of what her neighbors thought of her badly behaved children, she would always close all of the doors and windows in the house before she gave them a hiding. So now when this client hears that metal against metal noise of a metal framed window closing, she instantly becomes back in that moment. And we spent a lot of time working through that, not working through the exposure to the noise, because doing something like aversion therapy or exposure therapy, where you hear that noise over and over again until the noise has no meaning, could have worked for her, quite possibly. But how about we deal with the actual cause instead of just dealing with the fear? So that's the kind of work that I would do one-to-one
Mhm.
with someone with a particular thing. Whereas the 3Ps, the program has those modules, and together they empower an individual to overcome one of the most frequently, or one of the most frequent trauma responses that I see, which is people pleasing, people putting themselves last and then becoming ill, often chronically ill.
That's what got me thinking, like sometimes, like I know for myself and I know other people, sometimes we see somebody respond a certain way to something we're doing, and even that triggers us with a trauma response, right? Like, why is that especially in relationships, like why is that person ignoring us? There must be something behind it, all of that whole thought process. I know that recently I was on a forum and somebody complained about, okay, my husband is watching like porn and stuff like that. And initially my first thought was like, why is that? Yeah, that's an addiction for him, but how is it affecting you, right?
Mm.
But over time I understood, like, even when I'm going throughout my day, if I see my husband respond a certain way to something I'm doing, it would really, like, I would start taking it personally. Like, it would start
Mm.
this whole thought process, what's happening with this, right?
Yeah, and
In the
this
part.
has happened because there are, and this might be quite shocking for you. On the other hand, you might just get it immediately. This is because inside your head there are a whole load of opinions and assumptions, and they come out in judgment of others, fear of others, fear responses, fight or flight, all of that kind of stuff. And some of those opinions, some of those thoughts in your head are not even yours. Yeah, let that sink in for a second while I just let this person in. Someone's come really late to the party. So the reason why you've made that assumption is because at some point in your life someone has explained that that's what it means. Yeah, so it might be, say, your mother or an auntie saying, oh, my husband's ignoring me because I'm so crap at everything, blah blah blah, and that has become an opinion in your head. It's not actually your opinion. It's not even your experience of your husband. The experience that you're having with your husband now, where you think, oh, he's ignoring me, it must be something wrong with me, could just be that, bless him, he's a bloke and he can only cope with 2 or 3 thoughts in his head at one time before the rest of the world just becomes a blur. Men are really focused at doing the one thing, and doing the one thing really well, whatever that one thing is. And then when they need to do something else, they have to completely stop doing the one thing they're doing and move on to another task. It's like a woman is perfectly capable of painting a wall green while at the same time thinking about what color they're going to paint another room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Men can't do that. It's not
True.
it's not hardwired into their brain to be able to do multiple things. And I'm probably going to get a whole load of people in the comments going, yeah, but some men, blah blah blah. Yeah, some men are more in touch with their feminine energy and that's why they can do it. Yeah, but generally speaking, if a man is ignoring you, it's not that he's ignoring you, it's that his mind is just busy doing something else. And in order to become his main point of attention, you need to do something. It can't be all down to him. If you feel you're being ignored by him, tap him on the shoulder and say, I was just wondering, are you ignoring me or is there something going on? Just say
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
True.
What's the worst that can happen? He could actually say, yes, I'm ignoring you because you're a drama queen and I don't want to get sucked into your shit right now. Yeah. And then you'll know that he's ignoring you because he's protecting himself from you being chaotic. Or he might turn around and say, oh no, I didn't mean you to think I was ignoring you. I'm just trying to figure out how to solve this problem at work so that I can go back in the morning and not have to worry for the rest of the week. Yeah. there could be, I mean, I could literally sit here and come up with 50, 60 odd reasons why your husband could be ignoring you.
Yeah.
But it is almost guaranteed that the reason you think it is not the reason.
Yeah. I think so too.
Well, it's good that you're smiling now, because you weren't smiling at the beginning of this conversation. I'd always like a smile.
Yeah.
Smiles are great. I'm just going to say a quick hello to Robin. Hi, Robin. You're a little bit late to the party, my love.
Yes, I was just waking up and getting my tea and feeding my dog and waking up, letting the squirrels in my brain wake up.
Oh, bless them. The squirrels. We love the squirrels.
Oh yeah. My friend has squirrels, and that's what I refer to when he is trying to think of too many things at one time. It's usually because his squirrels are running around, and once I kind of bring that to his attention that he's, spinning.
You're hello, you're squirreling.
Yeah, squirreling or spinning, or, it's like, okay, slow down, one thing at a time, Yeah. So, but that's what you said is true though, generally men can only do like one thing at a time.
I mean, they do it well, bless them. But,
yeah,
I quite liked the example that just came to me while I was talking about it. A woman can paint one room and completely internally redecorate the entire house while she's painting one room, whereas a bloke is painting the room.
Yes.
And if you ask them to do something else in the middle of painting the room, God help you.
my friend likes to sit in the morning in the most sunniest spot that he can find and stare into the nothingness, and he does that very well.
Release the squirrels.
Release the squirrels. Yeah.
The most common thing that I have come to me when I'm doing mindset coaching with coaches who are running their business, as Coach Robin is, she's part of that group of people who I mindset coach, is what I call shiny object syndrome. Yeah. So you'll be working on a particular thing, like learning how to timetable and create content for a week. Yeah. And while you're looking for different examples or a bit of inspiration, you see somebody talking about AI. So you go down an AI rabbit hole. Whoops. And you're halfway down the AI rabbit hole, and then all of a sudden somebody starts talking about VAs and getting VAs to create your content. And then you're sitting there thinking, I really should be focusing on content, but at the same time I'm looking at AI on VAs and my content all at the same time, and you find yourself scattered by these shiny objects that just grab a bit of your attention. And women have got, as I was saying, more of a capacity to have 3-4 things going on at the same time. Is he barking? No, he's not. I left the curtain open because there he goes. You see him? Sit down.
Squirrel.
It's actually we have 2 lots of kids who walk past the front of our house. There's like the first bunch when schools finish, and then at about 5:30, which is what it is now, 5:30, 5:45, there's another little wave of the people who've been to after school clubs, who then walk past to get the bus at the end of the road. So yeah, he just wants to go out and play with the kids. Bless him. It's all he wants to do. So yeah, I'm not going to recap the entire workshop that I did today for you, Robin. If you want to watch the replay, the replay usually gets uploaded to YouTube, and I'll put a link back in the Facebook group. And then I make it public on YouTube in a couple of weeks' time. But you can catch up there.
I'm working on mine as well, since we don't have a Thursday.
No, we don't have a Thursday call today. I've got a client straight after this. So anyway, we've done the workshop. We've done some Q&A. It's been absolutely lovely spending time with both of you live. If you're watching on the replay, put replay in the comments before your thing, just so I know who's watching on the replay. Mind you, I can probably remember that you two were here live and everybody else is watching the replay, but have a lovely evening or day, depending on where you are. I think it's morning for Robin and probably the middle of the day for Natasha, just from memory. But have a lovely day, whatever you're doing. It's beginning to cool down a bit in here now. We're
Mhm.
down to 25 degrees indoors now with the air conditioning on. That poor air conditioning unit has been running all day because, but bless it, it's upstairs and I'm downstairs. So I occasionally go and stand at the bottom of the stairs and there's this, like, you can literally feel it, like this cool air wafting down the stairs past you. It's fabulous. So have a good day. I'm going to end this now. And as usual, bye for now.
Bye for now.
Bye bye.